Hey, what's up? Today I read this article on SitePoint.com called Why I Love Bootstrap and Why You Should Too. If you're not familiar with it, Bootstrap is a UI framework for websites that has responsive design features built in. It's got a ton of off-the-shelf widgets you can use, like buttons and drop-downs and carousels and this and that. It's one of the most popular open source projects on the internet right now, if that's any indication of its quality and popularity. Now, what struck me about this article, and I don't know why I was surprised, but the comment section kind of turned into a little bit of a holy war. And again, I'm not sure why I'm surprised, because it turns into a holy war every time you're talking about one technology against any other technology. It's just, the way the internet works, I guess. So anyway, the article has a couple of pros for Bootstrap, and let's just talk about those real quick. Reason number one, it has a powerful grid system. Yeah, it's got a very robust grid system that is responsive out of the box. There's very few situations that I've run into where Bootstrap hasn't provided the functionality that I needed in terms of laying out my website in a grid format. Every once in a while, you have to work some magic to make some things work, but overall, it's a great system. Number two, rapid development. Bootstrap, basically you add a couple of lines of code to drop in the Bootstrap CSS and the Bootstrap JavaScript file, and then it's just all about adding classes to your HTML elements to provide the Bootstrap framework. You might add a container class and then a row class inside that, and then one of the various column classes within that to say how wide within the viewport you want a particular element to be. And you can use different column classes to specify how wide you want it to be on an extra large desktop screen versus an extra small mobile screen. I think that's pretty cool. It gets you up and running and working in a responsive way very quickly, very easily. Reason number three is browser compatibility. Bootstrap is compatible with Internet Explorer version 8 and up out of the box. You don't have to drop in anything else to make it work with those. It's already included. I think that's awesome. Reason number four is customization. It says Bootstrap offers many ways to customize its default design. I've got a cat coming through here. You're kidding. You can override all of its CSS and default JavaScript behavior. Bootstrap is even more interesting if you are a less or a Sass developer, as it includes less and Sass customization options. These options let you smoothly create a new template using Bootstrap. What I think is really cool about that is that if you use less or you use Sass, which are basically CSS compilation engines, you can reference Bootstrap's variables and modify Bootstrap's variables very easily. If you want to change something as simple as the default text color, you can reference a variable and change it. If you want to change something as complicated as the default grid width on a particular type of viewport or size viewport, you can do that too. Not that hard. Reason number five is it's open source. And yeah, it's open source. I guess the only thing I would say about that is that most UI and CSS frameworks are. So I don't know that it's necessarily a point for Bootstrap that isn't earned by just about every other framework out there. So now, I'd like to go down here to the comments. There's just a couple of things I'd like to highlight. This individual says that he thinks Bootstrap is best suitable for developers with no or very little CSS knowledge. Now, one thing I'm going to say is that I think SitePoint might have changed a little bit from the days when I read it a little bit more. There's a lot of non-native English speakers on this website, apparently, which isn't a bad thing. Not saying that's a problem for me. I'm saying they write some really shitty sentences sometimes. But anyway, I don't necessarily agree with this person. I think Bootstrap is great for people without a whole lot of CSS knowledge. It can get you up and running with a reasonably attractive, responsive website very quickly. But it doesn't inhibit folks like me and maybe you. I'm not sure what your skill set is. But it doesn't inhibit us from doing anything more advanced. Honestly, I don't know where this comes from. I think it comes from the fact that a lot of people get Bootstrap, they build a website, they don't customize it that much. Doesn't mean you can't. Which brings me to the next individual here. Sasha Fuchs, I think. I don't know. I'm going to pronounce all these names wrong if I try. But this guy clearly doesn't like Bootstrap that much. Basically, he says that anytime somebody says they love Bootstrap, he thinks they have no front-end skills. He lays out a couple of points here. He says powerful grid system. You want to see powerful grid system, get SUSE. I've never used that, so it might be more powerful than Bootstrap, but Bootstrap has solved just about every layout problem that I've had yet. So are my projects simple? Maybe they are, but maybe Bootstrap is just good too. A lot of times I see people taking these perspective, here comes the cat again, and it's because they've worked with a particular tool so long they don't know what else is out there. He might not even know how powerful Bootstrap is because he hasn't given it the opportunity. He's just seeing what people are doing with it. Point 2 is reusable elements. Yes, the most pages that builded with Bootstrap have the same look. So I think what he's trying to say is that you can tell when a site is developed with Bootstrap. And to a certain amount, I'm going to say that is true. There's a lot of folks that pull Bootstrap off the shelf. They build a site, they create their layout, they fill it in with content, they don't bother to customize it. And then you've got this website that's well laid out, it's reasonably usable, but you damn well know it's designed with Bootstrap. That's certainly true. It doesn't mean it has to be. There are a lot of websites out there that are designed with Bootstrap that you could not tell are designed with Bootstrap. I'm working on one for a local community arts center right now that, unless you look at the markup and see that I'm pulling in the Bootstrap files in CSS and JavaScript, you're not going to know. It looks pretty good, and it looks very different from your average Bootstrap site. Really, the only reason this is even a point to be made is because, again, people are using Bootstrap and they're not customizing it, but people who have the skills to customize it certainly can, and they certainly do. And another person in the comments makes that exact point, that if a... This is why you don't blog with cats in the room. This individual, Louise here, he makes the point that if a site's built with Bootstrap and they've made customizations to it, you're probably never going to know unless you look at the markup. Anyway, next point here, browser compatibility. It's not very difficult, he says. Well, yeah, it's not that difficult. There's a lot of things about website design that aren't that difficult, but if I use Bootstrap, it's one less thing that I have to worry about. I don't know how that's a bad thing. He's basically, this guy is making points that, well, they're not points at all. They might be true, but they don't say anything negative about Bootstrap. They just say, yeah, I can do it some other way. Well, sure you can, but Bootstrap makes it easy, so why the hell wouldn't I use it? Customization. His complaint here is that it doesn't play as well with Sass as it does with Less. Yeah, that's probably true, but okay, you're a professional web developer. If you can't migrate between Less and Sass, what kind of a professional web developer are you? We're programmers. We need to adapt. That's practically our job. Finally, he says it's open source, which, you know, he says that's not a point at all. And I guess I agree with him about that, because most other UI frameworks are as well. But anyway, I guess what I'm saying about this is that these criticisms, there's a little bit of truth to them, but the fact of the matter is they're not points against Bootstrap. He's making points against the people that use Bootstrap, because he sees websites that look the same. They're using the Bootstrap button classes. They've got the same gutter widths and stuff like that as default Bootstrap. Yeah, you know it's Bootstrap, but again, that isn't inhibiting the people with the skills to do it from doing more advanced things with Bootstrap, and it doesn't get in your way of doing those things. I think it's a wonderful system because of that. So if he wants to be angry at lazy developers that use Bootstrap and don't customize it, that's fine. But the complaint certainly can't be levied against Bootstrap, at least not in any way that it can't be levied against any other framework. Because if I use 960 grid system, or if I hell, even if I start with Eric Mayer's CSS reset, if I fail to add any customization after that, any site that I make with those systems, it's going to look the same. Same thing goes for jQuery UI too. Unless I make customizations after I load jQuery UI and my default theme, sites are going to look the same. It's just not something that you can levy against Bootstrap and not other frameworks. The last thing I would say about that is, honestly, who cares? There are certain situations that call for a default looking website. If I want to make a website that's just going to be there to have content of some type dumped into it, Bootstrap is the perfect solution to that. I can get a reasonably attractive, quite responsive website up and running very quickly using Bootstrap, and then I can dump my content into it and I don't have to worry about it. There's situations where a client, they might want some of these features that Bootstrap provides, and they might not want to pay the money for you to write it yourself. I had a situation a while back where a client of mine who wanted a website done, they basically wanted a wine website on a beer budget. I made it happen for them because I used Bootstrap, and yeah, they didn't want to pay for the customizations after the fact, so I didn't do a whole lot. But the fact of the matter is, I started with Bootstrap. I made a couple of customizations to use the colors that go with their company, to use their logos, change some buttons around, stuff like that. And it looked very good. It flowed well. It was responsive out of the box. And they got that on the cheap, I will admit it. And that's what the project called for, so that's what I did. So anyway, what I'd say to the folks that have these criticisms of Bootstrap is that, number one, you can't levy the criticism at Bootstrap that that all sites that use it look the same, unless you're going to levy that same criticism against other frameworks as well. You can't say that browser compatibility is a problem because you can do it other ways. Yeah, you could, but it's easy with Bootstrap, so why wouldn't you? Customization, you can customize Bootstrap. Yeah, it's easier to do with less than it is with Sass, but again, you're a professional programmer, adapt. And finally, it's open source, just like every other UI framework. Okay, so it's not a bonus for Bootstrap, but it is a bonus in general. So, all right, well, if you've got any criticisms to make of me and my opinions on the matter, feel free to leave them here. And I do hope you'll check out the original SitePoint article, which I will leave in the video description. All right, well, I will catch you later. Thanks for watching.